The required distance between an underground 69 kilovolt transformer and telephone lines varies depending on several factors. These include soil conditions, the type of cable used for the telephone lines, and the specific regulations in your area. It's crucial to understand these guidelines to ensure safety and prevent interference. Here's a breakdown of the recommended distances. Firstly, let's consider the lateral distance, which is the horizontal separation between the transformer and the telephone lines. For buried telephone cables with metallic sheaths, a minimum separation of 15 feet, or 4.5 meters, is generally recommended. If the buried telephone lines have non-metallic sheaths, the minimum lateral distance can be reduced to 10 feet, or 3 meters. For overhead telephone lines, a minimum lateral distance of 15 feet, or 4.5 meters, should be maintained from the underground transformer. Secondly, we must examine the vertical distance, which refers to the separation in elevation between the transformer and the telephone lines. When telephone lines cross over the transformer, a minimum clearance of 10 feet, or 3 meters, is required above the top of the transformer. Conversely, if the transformer is installed underneath telephone lines, a minimum clearance of 10 feet, or 3 meters, should be maintained between the transformer and the bottom of the telephone lines. Keep in mind that these distances are general guidelines and not absolute requirements. Several additional factors can influence the required separation. Firstly, in areas with high soil conductivity, the lateral distance may need to be increased. High soil conductivity can enhance the potential for electrical interference between the transformer and the telephone lines. Secondly, if there is a risk of subsidence, which is the sinking of land, the lateral distance may also need to be increased to account for potential ground movement. Thirdly, if the transformer is shielded with a Faraday cage or other protective measures, the distance requirements may be reduced. Shielding can help minimize electromagnetic interference with the telephone lines. Fourthly, it's essential to consult local regulations and utility guidelines for specific requirements in your area. Local codes may have stricter distance requirements than the general guidelines outlined here. In addition, specific conditions can warrant adjustments to these distances. The actual required distance may need to be adjusted based on a site-specific conditions assessment. Qualified engineers should make the adjustments for the project. Soil composition should be taken into account. A professional would have to consider the type of telephone lines as well as any potential environmental factors. Remember that safety is paramount when working with high voltage equipment and telecommunications infrastructure. Ensure to ground the transformer properly. It's also important to consider the potential for electromagnetic interference. This can disrupt telephone service, so adequate separation is crucial. Also, remember that vegetation control can help maintain clearances, preventing future problems. All work on and around electrical equipment should be performed by qualified personnel who are familiar with safety procedures and regulations. This includes ensuring the correct grounding and bonding to minimize the risk of electrical shock. Consider the placement of warning signs to alert people to the presence of underground electrical equipment. Lastly, regular inspections of the transformer and surrounding area will help ensure that clearances are maintained and that any potential problems are identified and addressed promptly. Always prioritize safety and compliance with regulations to protect both the public and utility workers.